together, and so I'll show you some of the stuff that we found, and I got just tons of it. I got about 1,200 hours of vocals that I still haven't went through that I recorded with the parabolic. Here is 3 of the vocals. 2 of them are used on Expedition Bigfoot. They came to me, Ping Pong Productions, and we sold it to them for $500. That's what it was. And they use them on that Expedition Bigfoot every time it comes on. It's on a loop, so this is what we would hear behind our property. It was supposed to be on a loop. Yeah, I'm zero tech. It seems like every time you talk about this kind of weird stuff happens. I am. I'm on the second one. It's still not going. This is another one. So we would be out in our back garden area, and we would hear this mostly right before dark and 2 or 3 in the morning a lot of times. But it would kind of vibrate your body when you hear it. It would be so loud. And it was just crazy. Couldn't figure it out. It was like a T-Rex had a baby with an African lion, and they were just... We heard all kinds of sounds. We heard kind of sounds like Asian and Native American mixed together language, them talking out in the woods. And I guess Ron Moorhead calls it samurai chatter. We'd hear that all the time. And we could find another one. Sometimes we hear stuff that sound like a real high-pitched silent voice. That one's ever not quick. This one you would hear like a real high-pitched, like that. Like 2 or 3 of them. And we had another mountain range that was on the other side, and a lot of times these on this mountain range would vocalize with the other ones. We were in a little valley, and they would do this kind of stuff back and forth. And sometimes they would go on for 5 minutes with that, and you're like, what on earth could have a lung capacity to even have that much breath? But that was just a few of the sounds. I have so many. Let's see if the first one will work. It's the one that they use on the Expedition Bigfoot at the beginning of each. Oh, yeah, this was always a glitch with this stuff. I don't know, it's not going to stop for some reason. Let's go on to the next thing, maybe. There we go. Here's some of the footprints we'd find. They're hard to see here, but they're normally were about 7 inches, 7.5 inches through here, 14 to 17 inches long, different ones. And we'd find trackways where they would walk, because it's, rainy in Oregon, so you'd find muddy spots where you'd see them, and they walk they don't walk like us, like this, like we waddle, they walk. The trackways I would find, they'd be one step after another. So after about $500 worth of hydrocal and 50 footprints later, I just stopped casting them. I did it for 7 years in this area. I habituated it after we moved out of the house. So I'd go up there 2-3 times a week, put out peanut butter, cookies, apples, all kinds of different things. I'd get handprints. I tried all kinds of, I was freshly retired from working 6 days a week, so still had good energy. Needed something to do. So I would just think of ways to get, little booby traps. I'd get 2-sided thick tape and wrap it around eggs and wrap it on vine maples, and then they would take the egg out and you'd get their big old greasy fingerprints on everything. I would take 2-sided tape and go around the vine maple with it and put some bacon grease under it, and then you could get their fingerprints. I just had so many fingerprints and stuff like that. Hair, get hair in the trees. I would take that big, like you can go to a supply store and get the big sticky rat traps, about that wide. I would get my stool and nail them up on a tree about 10 feet, put peanut butter and cookies behind them, and then when the Bigfoot went to get that, I got hair. Their hair would stick to that. I was just trying to think of different ways to get evidence, and there's just some of the tracks we did. We had pickup load of them, but this one here was a really good one because you can see the mid-tarsal break. Human's foot don't bend right there. And then on the back, if you saw the picture up close, you can see where the hair off the heel is right here, and then the heel. In the mud, you can see that, the hair, the fur, hair, whatever they have. But that was a weird footprint. It wasn't even basically touching the ground right here. And someone was saying today, which I thought was a pretty good idea, that they kind of, because they got that mid-tarsal, they can almost pull themselves. When it kind of looked like that. But we'd see some like that, some that weren't like that. And like, you have your left foot and right foot with the turn in it there. Most of them is just straight. They don't have that. So I tracked them around. I was always hunting and stuff, and tracking them around, watching their activities. They would take the little pine trees and twist them off about a foot up off the ground, throw them in the trail, and I didn't go on that trail. So I just kind of took it as, you better not go down here. They could have, had some babies there or whatever. So. And then here's a vine maple. They would braid them on the ground like that, and sometimes way up in the trees, 8 or 10 feet up. They would do some amazing braids, maybe 10, 15 feet long. And we had a guy from Washington State that makes all kinds of wood things. I think it's Whitcomb, or I can't think of his last name. But he looked at one of the braids, and they're so intricate that he says a human couldn't even do anything that fine. I don't know how they do it, but they're pretty amazing. And we'd find a lot of tree structures. This is just some X's. You'd see a ton of X's. That's when I was out hunting and stuff, and after you do Bigfooting for a while, you start noticing little subtleties like, trees that weren't from a snow break, or you would see a lot of the A's, I don't know what they are, with a line through them. They would set up on the trail. It'd be like an A with a asterisk or whatever it is. Some go this way, some go that way. And then the X's. And then these trees wouldn't come from there. They would break them off and jam them in the ground. Me and my buddy had to pull one out, and it was jammed in the ground about 2 feet. But it was just kind of like their territorial markers. And here's one that I saw. I had habituated the area down this ravine for 4 or 5 years. And one day, me and my grandson were going out there to get I had a game cam, to get the card out of the game cam, and he's a young boy, 21. I'm an old guy with a bad hip. and it's kind of slick going down in there. So he runs off back this way down to the bottom where the habituation area was to get the card out of the game cam. And I'm just making my way down, and I see this blackish thing start coming up. And every time I got to this area, I'd get my phone out because I knew, so I was ready. And it just took off. And it wasn't running. It was walking real fast with its head down like this. Not doing the full-blown thing like that. And then I snapped a ton of pictures, but I got it here. And this is right when it went behind the tree. There's its leg. You can see its furry back on the picture, and you can see the muscles in its leg. It almost looked like the back of the head was kind of bald. I actually saw 3 Bigfoot when I lived in Oregon. The first one I saw, me and a buddy were elk hunting. We pulled into this area where there was a spring to have lunch. And over the little logging road out on the landing, we heard some boom, 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 boom. Like somebody taking a ball-peen hammer and hitting on metal. I'm like, what the heck is that? And he's like, I don't know, it's Sunday, nobody's working, and we're out here in the middle of nowhere. So he goes, I'm gonna go look. So he goes out to walk over this little rise, and as soon as he gets over the little rise in the road there, off to my right, another one started banging. And what it was is they were hitting rocks together. So I look to my right and I see this big black thing duck down like this. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, dang. And it looked similar to that. It almost looked like it had a cone head, but it was kind of bald on top. And I had a bear tag, so I thought, well, maybe it's a bear. So I grabbed my rifle, and when I put the scope, it was gone. And then he came back, because he had heard that one hit him. He came back to the truck, and then we heard him off to the right, hitting some more. They go the other way to the right. So that was the one I saw, and then another one I was actually elk hunting, and I came up on a power line. It was clear. And I was kind of going real slow because I thought I might see a deer or an elk down in there. And I just get up to where I can kind of see down in there, and here goes a Bigfoot running. And this thing looked like it was 8 feet tall, and it was skinny. It wasn't a fat one. And it just took off running, and I had my phone right there like I always did. So I was able to get one picture of it as it kind of ran off down into this little creek where you couldn't see it. But it was running so fast, it didn't look like a normal run like this. It looked like it was almost, you know how a deer does a little hop? It almost looked like that. But it made the quarter of a mile in 8 seconds, it seemed like, down into there. So those were the 3 I saw. This one I got the best picture of. The other 2 I got the blob squatchers, because they were a ways. But yeah, that was my, and I'd seen another one at our house at night. We had a big 2-story farmhouse, and it had those, we were out in the country, had a few acres. Didn't have any real close neighbors. And it had those lights that you activate, motion activated. So we had a big 5-bedroom house. Upstairs, the master was on the left, and there was 2 bedrooms on the other side of the hallway up there. So at night, we would open the windows. It was just me and my wife. We had no kids. And the air would blow through there to keep us cool. So my wife got up to go to the bathroom, and she goes, that light's on in the backyard. And we had a fenced backyard. It was a cyclone fence about 4 feet high with a big shop, so it was enclosed. So I get up, and I thought, it's probably just some, raccoon or something. I get up, and right when I'm walking across the hallway to the other bedroom where I could see down, the light went out. But it was a full moon. So I'm standing there, and I'm looking, and there's something dark up against the house. And I'm like, what the heck? So I kind of get over here where I can see down more, and it's a big figure against the side of the house. And I just go, I just whistled like that, and that thing took off so fast. And when it took off, it had so much power. If you guys have been around horses, a lot of times when they'll get up and they want to clean themselves off, they do that. like that. That's the kind of power it had when it took off. It hit that chain link fence and was gone. But the next day, my buddy, Tobe Johnson, he came over, and on the window, the house had bedrooms downstairs, but it had like a concrete foundation that was about 3 foot high. So the windows were about, 8 feet up to the top, and then, about here, 5 feet or so to the bottom. And up on the 8-foot window, the perfect face mark, greasy mark of a Bigfoot with 2 snot rockets coming out. What it had done, it had been listening, like, sitting there up against the window. And you could see the hole perfect. So he ended up getting some Q-tips and everything and getting the snot and saving it. But it was crazy, this big old face on there. Also, we get gifts from them. They bring, and it was something to do with the number 3. It was weird. They put 3 rocks on our, we had a big deck, on the deck rail. They put 3 rocks there. Or they'd put 3 of something else. You'd go get in your vehicle, there'd be 3 feathers. There'd be a feather in your vehicle. In the back of your vehicle, they'd put 3 rocks. On your back bumper. It was just, there's actually a book called The Owl Moon Lab by Tobe Johnson. And it has barcodes in there. It's Hanger One Publishing by Doug Hychek, put it out with Darrell Johnson. And it has codes in there. You can scan them with your phone, and it'll actually show you pictures and sounds of this kind of stuff right when we discovered it. So it's pretty cool. And here's a couple of my little booby traps. Here's one, that sticky, the mousetrap thing. I nailed it up on the tree about 8-10 feet. I had a stool I'd climb up and nail it up, because I ain't that tall. But I put peanut butter back there, and something reddish brown hair stuck its hand in it to get the cookie. I had cookies embedded in the sweet peanut butter. So that's a ton of hair. And this here, I had put peanut butter all behind this tree. This is a microphone, Toby Johnson's, it's not Bigfoot. But I had put peanut butter all behind the tree and cookies, and I got that mirror at the Dollar General, one of the mirrors, And the same thing, I nailed it way up on the tree, and I sprayed it with Pam cooking spray prior to that. So, came back about 3 days later, nothing. Came back about 5 days later, and those were on there. And up close, you can't see them from there, but up close you can see where the fingers break. And you can also see the dermal ridges of the finger marks. And this one here is kind of, you can see the hair. The hair from the fingers were on there. But I was always doing the some way, and then pretty soon you got 100 fingerprints, 100 hairs, 1,000 footprints, and you just kind of, after years. It wasn't something that happened overnight. And I got so much. Orbs. People talk about orbs. This one here, you can't see it that well, but there's a big pine tree right here. And we were out in the woods about 12:30 at night, and we had quite a few people with us. There was ladies out there doing their drumming and all that. And one of the ladies is kind of like Arla, that can really detect Bigfoot. She goes, "There's 2 Bigfoot over there by the creek." So I'm the only brave person in the bunch. These are all a bunch of ladies and guys, older guys. So I'm like, cool. So I'm just, I'm walking out in the woods at night anyway. Like I said, what could be better than to be killed by Bigfoot? I mean, on your epitaph, Anyways, I'm walking out there, and all of a sudden, I had heard something over by the creek make a sound, like a whoop, So I go up over this little rise where the creek's on the other side, and over to the right is this, the forest in Oregon, and the Cascades. And I just see this, like a big flash. It was kind of like those old flash bulbs, when you were a kid that did the flash, and then it just kind of stayed there for a little bit. And I'm like, holy crap, what's that? There is nobody. We're way up here in the Cascades, and those 8 people are down there singing Kumbaya, I'm the only one out here. So I stood there for a minute. It kind of scared me, and it did it again. And then and then I heard some more rocks getting thrown in the creek to my left. I'm like, holy, man, am I going to get ambushed or something? And then it did it again. So I started figuring it out. It did it about every couple of minutes. So I waited after that one, and I held my phone up, and I just started, or held a button, and it'll just keep taking pictures, I think. I can't remember. But I was lucky enough to get it. And what it was is some kind of burst of power coming out of this tree. Some people say they're portals. Some people, Ron Moorhead thinks some trees can keep energy, and then they'll release it. I don't know, it's just freaky. And these things, we would see them, they're orbs. Some of them are like ribbons coming up, and they come out of the ground, and they'll come up maybe 25 feet, and then they'll just go out real slow, just like a fading light. And then we would see red ones going by in the woods, up high, 50 feet up in the big old pine trees. They're going real slow. They make no sound, and they don't illuminate like a light. It's like a dim lantern just going super slow. So we had all that action going. Crazy stuff. And these things, I never knew about them, but a lady that is a friend of mine in Harless, Susan, they're called glyphs. And there's a lot of them that are real subtle. You'll really have to pay attention because they'll be like on your deck or something, and they'll look almost like a pi symbol. A lot of times I saw that. And just different, this is out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. Now, I mean, sure, some hippie hunting mushrooms could have done that, but not likely where we were. Because it was kind of private property all behind our properties. And to get back into that area, you'd have to probably walk in at least 5 to 10 miles just to hike in there. And there'd be no reason for anybody. It wasn't hunting season or nothing. But we would see all that stuff, different things. And then this is just the things I've been involved with. The first one was the alien Bigfoot connection. They're just podcast or things that are on TV or the YouTube. The Al Moon Lab, that's that book that has a lot of the experiences we had there. We also had some weirdness, paranormal kind of stuff. The one show, the Paranormal Bigfoot, Flash of Beauty, it shows a little bit of it, but there was a lot more that happened to us. One morning I came in, and the day before I'd been to the landfill dump out there. So I had this thing I called a Webby. It was a thing that went on my pickup to keep the trash from blowing out when you haul your trash. And I just, it was still hooked onto the front 2 hooks in my truck, and I just threw it, after you undo it and let your trash out, I just kind of threw it forward. So one morning I came out, and I walk around the back of my truck. I had 2 trucks. I was going to get in my little truck, and here's that Webby laying behind my little truck, and I'm like, what the heck? And 2 of the little plastic hooks had been torn off, and I started looking, and I had a full-size Chevy 4-door Silverado 4-wheel drive, and something had reached over the passenger side, the back door cab, and on the edge of the truck bed, it was kind of had moisture in the morning from the dew. You could see 3 big finger swipes where it touched the edge of the truck bed, reached down in there and ripped that Webby out of the back of the truck and left 3 rocks. 2 agates and a little piece of jasper laying in the back of the truck. It was like, don't be putting any crap in my spot, because they would put them in there all the time. But yeah, the fingerprints are that wide. It's crazy. So that was another strange thing that happened there. We would hear the sounds. We'd be out working in the garden, late in the day or whatever when it cooled down, and we would hear them start up there. You would hear them start yelling and screaming. And have you ever walked into a zoo, and as soon as you walk in the zoo, you can hear the monkeys fighting or whatever, woo, woo, right before they hit you with a piece of poop, But we'd hear that going on in the woods, like, holy smokes. It sounded like a monkey war up there. And then you would hear owls, you know, like the barred owls or whatever, their big sound. And then you'd hear the Bigfoots doing it. And they weren't quite as good, but they were a lot louder. So they would do mimicking of stuff. We had on the other side of the river, there was a guy that had some cattle. So when they would take the babies away from the mamas, the mamas would just go nuts for like a day. So you'd hear, you know, like sad, you know. A month or two later, here's these 5 Bigfoots up there, stuff just like the cows. So there's this crazy stuff like that. They would just mimic things. We would be up in the woods, and we'd just hear a car door slam. We're like, what the heck? Can't be a car up here. Our pickup's parked up on the logging road, locked up. Who knows? I guess they make a car door sound, slam. We would hear some friends of mine from Bend, Oregon, Randy Sylvie. He brought a group of Bigfoot people over there, and we were down in there, and they had found all kinds of those weavings, and his wife found some footprints, some smaller prints down by the creek. But him and another guy, they're hikers, you know, so they hike down in there, and they're standing there kind of overlooking this area, and they hear 2 little girls start talking and laughing. They got out of there, and they're like, I ain't never going back in there. But they said it sounded like 2 little 5 or 8-year-old girls talking and laughing like they were playing, you know, with a little dollhouse or something. Scared the heck out of both those guys. And they're, you know, husky guys. But yeah, it's just, I had so much stuff going on there. I set up my parabolic in the back of my property, and I had it on a stand, and I had a Sony recorder, and I put it in a Ziploc because Oregon, you know, you never know it's going to rain. But I started recording sounds after we'd been hearing them up there, and just got all kinds of weird sounds. You would hear them talking, and you would hear different, almost like different languages. Some of them would do that samurai stuff, talking, some like, you know, like an Asian and Native American lingo combined. And then some of them would talk real high pitched, like that high pitched sound I did. It would almost sound like they were screaming, crying, talking. Just, I think they have like different languages. I'm not sure. And you don't really know any more about it when you leave there than you do when you got there. They're hard to figure out anything about them. I got some game cam photos, you know, it takes in succession. And I cover the tree with peanut butter and stick apples and marshmallows on the little tree stalks. And in some of the successions, you'll see the peanut butter vanishing, and it looks just like that show, The Predator. You can see through it, and you'll see a wall of peanut butter vanish in this picture, this picture, this picture. And you'll see the fern down on the ground get pushed down. And you can see all the ferns around it, the wind's not blowing. And I put on latex gloves, and I hung a pair of latex gloves on the limb, and you see something come up against those latex gloves and raise them up, like with its leg, or it's laid there, and then you'd see that stuff on the tree. So, had a lot of weird things. When I first did the first documentary, I just said I was normal when I got here. Because it just kind of takes you down the rabbit hole into the rabbit den, basically. And you start wondering if your brain's right, you know, if you're thinking, you know, you're just a normal person. I was just a general engineering contractor from California when I moved to Oregon. It was just, yeah, I hadn't dealt with weirdness like that. But it's, you know, it's almost if you play into its little game, it'll just keep playing with you. You know, it'll put a rock here, it'll put a feather in your locked vehicle, it'll put we had a rock in the middle of our living room. We went to church and came home. We had a big, like a Persian rug, hardwood floors, right in the middle of the rug. We always locked our doors. We had a door cam. It was before the ring. It was a different kind. I can't think of it. Nothing on any of that. Door was locked. My little dog was upstairs, and the master underneath the bed. I have a little toy Australian Shepherd. And how'd that rock get in there? Right in the middle of our floor. And we just, we'd been there. Strange stuff like that happened there. A lot of strange things. Is it ghost? Is it paranormal? Is it, who knows? But also, the closest neighbor on this side, his name's Chris, but we called him Wormy because he was a worm farmer. He would sell worm castings to all the pot growers in Oregon. But he was a cool guy. He was a Jehovah's Witness, so I don't know, he might have been crazy. But anyways, he would tell me, yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. He said he was going out one night to, and they lived kind of primitive, off-gridish. They had utilities, but they didn't, they didn't use a lot of stuff. So he was going out one night. His road going up to his property had about 75 acres or 65. And he'd have to walk across the road he had a wood shed there, and to get pieces of wood to put in the wood stove for the night, to keep the house warm. So he's walking across there one night. He got his arms full of wood. He put his mag light in his mouth, and he started to walk back across the road, and he saw something to the right in his eye, and he dropped the wood, and he said it was at least 8 feet or more, a Bigfoot. And when he shined the light, his eyes were real pretty blue, like a bobcat. If you guys have ever seen one of them at night, they're real pretty blue-green. He said it was like that. He said he just got closer to his wife that night. He didn't need the wood. But he was telling me the stories about he called it the chandelier because this thing would show up. Behind the house was the major power lines that fed the whole state of Oregon, probably about 1,000 feet behind the house. And right behind that was a bubbling spring that came out of the ground and went underground under the power lines, and then it bubbled up right behind our property by our shop. There was about 20 feet there, and there was where the street came out and ran to the river across the street. But anyways, in that ground up there's crystals everywhere. There's agates, so they're like Jimmy stones all underground. So you got all that power, you got that ice cold spring water, and you got all those crystal rocks and all that. Some people think that creates some kind of spot, whatever, spot of weirdness. I guess it does, because we have a lot of weird stuff going on. And you can watch these shows. They're pretty good. I really like the last one because I'm probably in it more, but it seems like it tells a little more. This one here was really good. I think they're pretty much all free on YouTube. You just, do it, get it on your phone and put it on your TV, or just YouTube on your TV. But they checked, they did a lot of stuff, and we were like the debunkers to the 10th power on everything that happened. I mean, we were like, how on earth could, 3 rocks? Yeah, some crazy drunk Jehovah's Witness could come over here and put those rocks in. Then you got a door camera, and you look on the camera and nothing. And it's only like 20 feet out to the deck row. How they show up, I don't know. First, we'd see different rocks like on my truck and everything. We'd think, yeah, crows, You just write all that stuff off until it keeps happening. Then they bring weird other things. And it's like they had their own little Sasquatch tool shed out there. They'd bring up old toys, and they'd leave them like in the yard or something. And one day, Oregon has a lot of berries, like blackberries, all kinds of berries. So it was, I don't know, it might have been late August, and I was going to go try to get some blackberries because I'd pick a 5-gallon bucket full, make cobblers, I'd freeze them and vacuum seal them. So I took my little dog up the hill to where the big berry vines were, and it was kind of like hedgerows. There was some berry vine, blackberries here, and blackberries there. At the end, there was a big patch of raspberries. So I really liked the raspberries. So we were walking up, and it was warm. It was August. My little dog, I looked at her and I go, she was like panting. So I'm like, oh man, I didn't bring any water. So I get up there, I get a few berries, I grab her, start walking back, and right in the row, right in the middle of that hedgerow thing where I'd walked up, there's a 1970s thermos, all covered in mossy patina. And people told me, well, they probably thought, they're thinking that's water for your dog. I don't know. But it just makes your hair stand up because you think, is there some weird tweaker hiding out here somewhere? That's the thought that goes through your head because it's something that's not possible, kind of. So I got 2 sticks, man. I picked it up, to preserve it and put it in my truck. And took it home. Greasy fingerprints on it. Big old. These things have greasy hands. Yeah, it's crazy, I guess some lady from Texas named Shelley Montana, I don't know if you've ever heard of her. Yeah, she came up with a name, Alba vernix. It's like this greasy stuff. Her and Doug Hychek came, and they think that's the stuff that the Bigfoot's body creates. Alba vernix, they call it. But that was my first few years there of trying to get evidence, footprints, fingerprints, hair. I got all that, everything but a body. I would take, and I didn't want to kill, I wasn't interested in killing one. I mean, I had my AR-10 with I was shooting, elk from half a mile. I could have done whatever if I would have saw one. But I was just, every day I was trying new things, and then after I got all that stuff, it's like, dang, that's so cool, You're like, wow, look at that, perfect footprints. I cast them. And then fingerprints. I took a heavy-duty aluminum wrap and wrapped it around a big pine tree. Took 2 big things of peanut butter from Walmart with my latex gloves and just covered it. About 4 days later, I come up there, and here's these big finger swipes, tongue marks, tongue that way. You could see on that tinfoil. I was like, that's so cool. Came back another day or 2, everything was gone. Even the tinfoil. I don't know. It was crazy stuff. I put out every kind of fruit. They don't like bananas for some weird reason. I put out, apples, pears, just whatever was cheap, from Walmart. And I would just do a little habituation area. We'd see that some friend of mine have some big ones, but that vine maple grows everywhere there. And a friend of mine, Mark Parker, he's got one that he found that's a huge, they almost look like a dream catcher. He's got one that's huge, about that big, that they did. I mean, we're out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And what was cool is underneath it, you could see the footprints in the mud where it was stood there and did that, weaved it together. So, at first we were looking at all that, a certain time of year, the birds will kick their nest out of the tree, and you'll look all in their nest, trying to find a Bigfoot hair. We'd take, where I'd put the peanut butter on the tree, I'd take my strong flashlight, and I'd take a black trash bag and roll it inside out, and then create static, and then you rub it, on the tree, and if there's any hair or anything, it sticks to that static, and you don't touch it. I mean, it's preserved. Then you get home, and you take the scissors and lay it out on the table, and, shine a real strong light on it, and that's so much hair. I mean, it may not have all been Bigfoot, bear, but that's just stuff, to collect evidence. But once you get all that evidence, what do you do with it? It's kind of like, I worked at it pretty hard there for about 5-6 years, going up there all the time and being diligent to it, other than when the weather was real bad. But it was kind of cool. It was a little scary. I was mostly by myself. I was retired, and I didn't take a gun. Sometimes I'd take my knife. But I was up there one day. I got kind of scared because off the hill there was like a little plateau, and then it dropped off. And where it dropped off, it was real brushy, you couldn't see. So I was out there one day doing my thing with that stuff, and I hear something coming up the hill, and I'm thinking, man, what is there, a herd of buffaloes down there? It sounded like a rumbling in the ground. So I'm limping my old wounded leg up the hill a little bit so I could see. Nothing. Not one thing down there. It's just some weird sound. It's funny because people would say they would hear trains out there, and there's no train really near there. And Arla actually has a recording that she recorded at her house, and she doesn't have a train near her that sounds like a train. But just strange things. But I would, if you're going to go hunt out and hunt Bigfoot, what they do in Oregon is they look on the maps, they go to areas that say stuff like Skookum Meadow, or they call it, the natives call them Skookum or whatever, or Kill Devil Road or something like that from the 1800s that people have named because, something happened there like that to get its name. So they'd go there and they'd look around. You start seeing the weird things like, I'd call them leaners, like things leaning up against a tree that lean sticks. And then, just like I did, just start putting out peanut butter and habituate that area for a while. A lot of people don't like doing that because they say once you stop feeding them, they get angry and all that. If you're out in the middle of the woods, they can get angry all they want. What are they going to do? We'd hear tons of tree knocks, like so loud, it was strange because in Oregon, all the limbs and stuff that have fallen off of trees are kind of rotted, and wet and stuff. I mean, you can get a decent one and make a good knock, but it's nothing like you hear. It sounds like somebody takes two wooden bats and just hits them together as hard as they can. Dang, how do they make that sound? Some people say they make it with their mouth or clap, but it's just crazy loud. A lot of times we would hear like boom, 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 and then a boom, boom, and then three. The number 3 came into play a lot with knocks. Then you hear the whoops and the hollers and the screams. But I think, you don't need to go out there and start whooping and hollering and screaming and hitting on trees. They already heard you coming a mile away on the gravel road. They already know you're there. Go out there and keep it dark as you can. Some people say, I got a friend of mine, Randy Harrington, he goes and he'll set up a fake tent. He'll sit there with his windows tinted out. He's even taken like a mannequin of a lady, I think, and poured some cheap Ode to the Toilet perfume on her and try to get the Bigfoots in. And he'll sit there in his, tinted up truck with his night vision and stuff and watch the campsite, around the perimeter. He's got some killer stuff. But that guy, he is serious. Me, I was just I wasn't serious. I was just down there chucking apples and cookies around. But if you stay out something for a long time, you're going to find evidence and all that. But, we sent hair to a lady named Cindy Dosen up in Canada. She has a lab or whatever. She calls the Enigma Project. She's part of the Olympic Project in Washington. And it comes back as lower extremity because it was off those knee impressions that we got. He didn't tell her anything. We did it on open forum like this. And she comes on the screen, on Zoom or whatever, and she says, these are unknown human-like hairs from the lower extremity, and everybody in the place just went, oh my God, she didn't know anything. The same old story, no medulla, partial medulla, whatever. Some of them did. We had so many hairs. But, and then, you can go to the next level and have the DNA ran, and it's going to come back as the mother's human and the father's unknown, but of Arab type descent. That's what it comes back as. And, that's, other than having a body, it's pretty much everybody these days got everything, and then, I was telling someone earlier, in the last probably 2 years, a lot of stuff has opened up because when I was first doing the Bigfoot stuff out there, I went from not believing in a Bigfoot at all to thinking, yeah, maybe. I mean, I was open-minded. You know, there's weird animals all the time. To, yeah, I could hide 10 foot off the road. No one would ever find me here with all the vine maple and everything. If I didn't want to be found, I could hide here. So I went to think, yeah, this thing, yeah, it's a monkey out in the woods, you know, Gigantopithecus, whatever. And then after I started seeing weird stuff like on my game cam with it vanishing, and I'd see 3 steps in the mud and no more steps. And I'm a really good tracker. I've been hunting since I was a kid. I was a Boy Scout. We learned to track. I can track any animal, not that. And you're like, did that thing go up that tree? So I started looking around the other trees, and like, but it's not really, a lot of times it's in a meadow or something. It's not even a tree around. You'll see 4 or 5 prints and then nothing. And you think, can that thing, you know, most of the strides, a lot of the strides we saw were 5'3". 5'3" to 5'7". This is the ones we measured. We did some trackways. And you know, they walk like this, like a coyote walks, if you ever notice. Dogs walk like us. But we were just, I would go online and look at other people that have been researching Bigfoot forever and get ideas that they have used. And I'd go up there and apply that and just get different stuff. And then, you know, after you get all these footprints, like I told someone, I spent $500 on hydrocal. You know, I'd go up there, pour a 5 or 8, 10 footprints, and come back and get them, and it's just, they're all different, you know, some of them have that break, some don't. But, and then hair, you get some hair around footprints. Mostly I got a lot of it around the peanut butter trees. You gotta get a really strong flashlight, and that back thing works good, like I said. But yeah, that's about all I know. I could go on for 2 weeks. I got so much stuff stored on the computers, and because I was out there every day, I learned to always have your camera ready, always have your phone ready. I hear people say, I watched that Bigfoot for 20 minutes. I mean, we have the best, my phone has 3 cameras on it. I mean, you know, what are you thinking? And so that's about all I know. Thank you guys. If you have any questions. Have any questions about all that? No? All righty.
You would ever find like dead carcasses or bones or anything?
I would find piles of bones, but not of Bigfoot.
I'm talking about like where they eat stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'd find deer and elk bones, and there was this one ravine, and you'd go in this area and it was real quiet. There were birds wouldn't even come over there. It was just full of bones up in the Cascades. Yeah, you'd see them, and I really, other than like a porcupine or something chewing on them, you wouldn't see big teeth mark at all, like a bear would do or something. They would be broken. You know, like the big femur bones and everything, just be snapped right in half. Yeah, it's wild stuff. All righty. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming in, everybody.
Thank you.